This
Whenever you are
conference
ready,
will now be
we
recorded.
can start.
Well, excuse me. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Dick Kilhart, FLDPW. I just want to say up front that I personally need to be off the call at 3:30, but if it needs to continue into that 3:45 time frame, certainly we can do that. Moving forward to item number 2, are there any comments from the group before we get into the other agenda items? If there are none, we can move forward to the approval of the February 9th minutes. Those were all sent to you by the group earlier in the week.
Robert Schwartz from Gardner, move to approve the minutes of the February 9th, 2022 meeting.
I second.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. We'll move forward to item number 4, which is the Route 2 area plan developments and truck estimates. Brad, are you handling that?
Nope, George Snow is going to be doing that.
George, okay. George, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Today, we're going to present the estimated truck trips that will be generated by 3 proposed developments or planned developments: the Capital Commerce Center, or CCC, the Industrial Development, or ID, the Unified Global Packaging, or UGP. And the reasons why we're doing this is because these developments are within 2.5 miles of each other. They are within 1.5 miles of Route 2. They are within 1 mile of Lunenburg Road, Fort Pond Road, the Fort Pond Road that's in Lunenburg. And the truck trips will impact the same roads in Route 2 exits. So there's quite a bit of truck trips that are going to be generated here. Next, please. As far as traffic impact analysis goes, usually they should be generated for any type of development that comes in. The traffic impact and access study has been completed for the CCC development. The trip generation and site access letter was developed for the ID development. However, the UGP development, currently I don't know of any impact analysis that's been done for that development. Based on the CCC development TIAS, the traffic impact and access study that was completed on 5/12/21, the development square feet was just over 2.6 million, with industrial development taking 94% of the square foot, which will generate the truck trips. However, based on revision 7, completed on 10/15/21, the industrial development square feet has been reduced by 43%. The industrial development square feet is 372,000 square feet, while the UGP development square feet is 272,000 square feet. So the total square foot that will generate truck trips is just over 2.1 million square feet. Next. We're not aware of any revision to the CCC TIAS. So we reduced the estimated TIAS truck trips by 43%. The TIAS also provided low and high truck trip estimates. So based on that 43% truck trip reduction, the low estimate is 353 truck trips, while the high estimate is 482 truck trips. However, 350 truck trips are going to be eliminated. Excuse me. Yes, however, 350 truck trips are going to be eliminated at the site that are presently generated by the J.B. Hunt and Central Mass in gravel. Next. The ID development is estimated to generate 208 truck trips based on the letter there. And the UGP development is approximately 75% of the square foot of the ID development. So we're estimating that it's going to generate 152 truck trips. Combined, two developments will generate 360 truck trips. Next. So adding the CC development low and high net truck trips to the ID and UGP development truck trips, the low net estimate will be 363, and the high net added truck trips will be 492. That's in the green section of this table. So the total generation by the three developments, we have to retrieve the 350 truck trips that were taken away earlier to the CCC total, development total. So the total truck trips generated by the three developments will be 713 truck trips for the low estimate, and the high estimate will be 842 truck trips. So that's a considerable amount of truck traffic that's going to be added to these roadways. Next, please. And these are the roadways and intersections that will be impacted by these truck trips. 9 of the 13, which are in red, will be impacted by all three developments. The top one, you see the top 4 will be mainly solely by the ID development. And you can see that there's 3 exits here. Exits 102, 103, and 105 will be impacted by these truck trips. Also at the same time, there's 2 projects that are being developed for these roadways. One is still under quite a bit of development. Mass DOT is developing a project for the 3 exits. However, there is a TIP project right now for the Main Street at Lunenburg Road and Main Street at Seven Bridge Road intersections in Lancaster. Next. So that's about it. If there's any questions or comments, we'd appreciate them.
George, I just have one question. When you mentioned truck trip, you're talking heavy duty trucks, the tractor trailers, or is it large single units and above?
I think it would be a combination, but I think most of it would be tractor trailer trips based on the plans. I think,
And one comment from me is this also came up before at the MJTC, concerned by, I think it was the town of Shirley, regarding the impacts of all these projects. As you can see, that there's the potential here for a large number of impacts and some things that need to be addressed. The status of the projects right now, I'm unsure of how far along the development process they are and whether they're actually going to come to fruition. I don't know, but there will be obviously severe impacts to Route 2 and the acceleration, deceleration lanes at the entrances and exits to Route 2. So we wanted to just bring this up, and obviously George has passed along his numbers here to Mass DOT for their possible review and concern and question. But we'll have to keep up to date on this and see what the process is, where these projects stand in terms of the development process, when they're actually planning on breaking ground on some of these projects, and the final anticipated completion dates of these also.
I would just like to add that the ID development letter that was generated only looked at one intersection, and that was the Leominster Shirley at Four Pond Road, and it only looked at one intersection, and then looked like at the trips that would be coming from, as they would be coming from Route 2. It was limited to that one intersection.
Which one was that, George?
It only looked at the study or
What development was that?
the ID development, industrial development.
And that's planned for Lunenburg, 435 Shirley Road.
Yeah. And it only has that one intersection in their letter that they generated.
Now the Unified Global Packaging one at 580 Fort Pond Road, that's an existing facility now that's being expanded, as far as we can tell. This one up here at the top map, you see where it says Unified Global Packaging. That's an existing facility with an expansion being planned. The one you mentioned that already has existing truck traffic, which one was that, George?
What was that again, please?
The one you mentioned already has existing truck traffic?
Yeah, where the CC development will be. CC development. That has JP Hunt and what is it now? JP Hunt and JP Hunt and Central Mass Sand and Gravel.
That's the Capital Commerce Center?
Yes, yes.
And that's the large-scale development off of Route 70 in Lancaster, which is the bottom map in this, on this figure. And this development also includes residential and some commercial, I believe. So outside of the truck traffic, there will be an additional impact from regular single occupancy vehicles and so forth at this location. Are there any questions from anyone regarding this?
Okay. Seeing that there are no more, we'll move on to item 5, which is the fiscal years, I should say, 2023 through 2027 TIP program. We'll start with the updates to the project listings, costs, and status. Brian, is that you?
Yes. So today, basically, we'd like to again review those target project lists, and ultimately, after we look at some scenarios that we put together, make a recommendation to the MPO for the meeting next week, that we develop a slate of projects into what will become the draft. But before we get into that, we have recently got the transit and statewide project listing. So these are this first list here is the transit project list. This is prioritized by the Regional Transit Authority, and we were sent this yesterday. So it wasn't in your mailing, but we have it for review now. This will be included in the TIP document. We have no discretion on where these projects are placed. Again, this is the Transit Authority's prioritized list, but it's the same 5 federal fiscal years, 2023 through 27. It'll be included in the TIP as well. You can see it's mostly a lot of vehicle replacement and upgrade to transit facility projects on here. The TIP is required to include all federal funds that go into the transportation system in our region. So that's why we carry this in the highway side as well. So this is a preliminary list. It's still, I believe, being worked on, and we should have a more solid list in the next few weeks, and certainly before we ideally release the document for public comment before the end of April.
Brian, can I just jump in? I'm
Sure.
sorry. Just want to jump up on. I know it's a little tough to read because of the size. Can you show them how to access the online cloud folder so they can get these documents by going to the MRPC website?
Sure. Yep. So let me just. If you go to the MRPC website and you go to the upcoming meetings, in this case, the transit and the statewide projects listing handout, that's just recently been made available to us, so it wasn't included in the handouts for this meeting. But you could go to the MPO meeting.
It should also be in the MJTC one.
Okay.
I think I've updated and put them in there.
Okay, good. So if you go to the applicable meeting, in this case, JTC meeting, and you scroll down to the handouts for the meeting, and you click on that, it should bring up a folder of all the handouts. And in this case,
They're not there.
So this was just recently added in the last 24 hours. So
I will put them in there. I'll put them in there myself in the next few minutes. But you could also show them how to get to that back on the calendar. You go back. If it doesn't say MJTC up on the upcoming meetings, because say tomorrow it won't be there, go to all upcoming events, and you'll get this calendar view, and you can select it there where it says MJTC, Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee, and that'll take you to that same page with the link to the folder. So these handouts will be in that folder within the next few minutes. So.
all right, thank you, Brad. Yeah, so I won't go over this in detail. There are details in the notes of this transit list, so just so you're aware, this is included in the tip as well. Same for the statewide program list. This is prioritized by Mass DOT, and these are all the projects in the Montachusett region that will be included in that list. Mostly highway and bridge projects, mostly larger scale projects on higher priority roadways in this list. And I can quickly go over year to year. In fiscal 23, they have listed pavement preservation on Phillipston and Templeton on Route 2. In Ashby, and intersection improvements on Greenville Road, which is Route 31 Turnpike Road. In Fitchburg, pavement preservation on Route 2. And Gardner, a safe routes to school project, sidewalk project on Elm Street. In 24, you have Hubbardston Bridge replacement, Williamsville Road over Burnchart River. In Fitchburg, Ashby, resurfacing and related work on Route 31. And phase 2 of the Fitchburg Leominster Twin Cities Rail Trail construction project. In 2025, we have Sterling stormwater drainage improvements at Wachusett Reservoir on Route 110, and Gardner bike path bridge construction on the North Central Pathway over 140. Fiscal year 2026 lists only one project. That's in Fitchburg, improvements at Memorial Middle School, another safe routes to school project. And finally, fiscal year 27, Lancaster and Leominster interstate maintenance on Route 190. Again, this is prioritized by the state, and we'll include this in the document and the analysis that goes into the TID. Now to get back to the target projects, which is where the MPO has discretion. We've continued on monitoring the project status and cost changes in the last month. And we have developed basically 2 scenarios for the group to consider today, and ultimately make a recommendation to the MPO, which to develop into what will become the draft document, which we'll be sending out for public comment after the MPO meeting in April. So here's the target project listing as the projects are currently listed. We've reviewed this in the last few months. Really nothing has changed in this handout. We've been monitoring the project's status and project readiness, and we've determined 2 possible scenarios. So basically the main point that we've been monitoring the last month or so is the project readiness of project 607432, which is Westminster Rehab and Box Widening on 140. This is currently listed in year 2023. However, there's been some concerns on the project in terms of right-of-way and Article 97 legislation that needs to be passed because it passes through the Pittsburgh Water District. And there's been some issues that have led to concerns that there's a possibility that this project would have to move back at least 1 fiscal year. So in scenario 1, we've kept this in the current order. In scenario 2, we show what would happen if we were to move this project back into 2024, the effect that that would have. I will say that since last month's meeting and the initial meetings we've had with DOT, we've been in contact with officials from the town and their consultant on the project, as well as DOT, and some of those concerns have been mitigated to a certain extent. There's been some work towards getting this project back on schedule. We have a better understanding that this would be ready for 2023. So that would be ideal. So I'll go over each of these scenarios, and the main difference between scenario 1 and scenario 2 is the placement of this Westminster project and the effect that it would have on the rest of the list. So scenario 1, you can see it described in red under where it says scenario 1. This would keep the current order. We'd adjust both advanced constructed projects, which are Leominster Route 12, listed in 2024, 25, and 26, and Harvard resurfacing and box widening in 26 and 27. Basically, we adjust the amounts funded in each year under this scenario. It wouldn't necessarily affect when the project is constructed, but it would just make it a little bit neater and allow us to remain fiscally constrained in each year. We'd also be able to move Athol Project 608723 from the appendix to fiscal year 2024, which is the Crescent Street, Chestnut Hill Ave project in Athol, as well as move Athol 608415 and Clinton 610681 from the appendix to 2027. Those would be Clinton reconstruction of Sterling Street, Route 62, and Athol intersection improvements on Route 2A at Brookside Road. So to summarize the scenario, basically we'd keep Westminster in 2023, and we'd be able to move 3 projects from the appendix into a fiscal year of the document. I will also note that these 3 projects move forward from the appendix are not only some of our highest rated projects in terms of the evaluation criteria that we use, but they're also considered to be the most ready projects to move in terms of their status and the design status and whatnot into a federal fiscal year. So in both scenarios we'll look at, we have a considerable number left over in our target balance in 2023. In scenario 1, that would be roughly $2.7 million. Ideally, we'd spend out every last dollar of target funds that we get in the region. However, we do not have a project currently in the region that qualifies that would be ready in time for 2023. So essentially what would happen to this balance is if we couldn't find anything to fill that gap in time, it would revert back into the state funds to be spent likely elsewhere, could be in our region, anywhere else at the state's discretion. Another note is in fiscal years 2024, 25, and 26, we leave no balance, which is a good thing. In 2027, we leave very little balance, under $20,000. It's good to leave as little balance as possible. However, I will make the disclaimer that the project costs apparently have not been set in stone yet. The hard cap date on project costs for this list, I believe, is somewhere in early April. So we could possibly see a price increase in one of these projects. And since it's a fiscally constrained document, that would require us to move around something to make us within fiscal constraint. In other words, not go over our target allotment in each federal fiscal year. So that's always a possibility. And it goes for scenario 2 as well. So scenario 2, again, the main reason why we developed a scenario because there was initially some concern about Westminster 140 not being ready. As you can see in this scenario, we moved that project to 2024 from where it's currently listed in 23. And if you look at the red font, it sort of describes the whole scenario. Moved that particular project. Again, adjust both advanced constructed projects and move one project, Athol 608723, which is a Crescent Street project, from the appendix to 2027. So in this scenario, we'd only be able to move one project as opposed to 3 in scenario 1 from the appendix to 2027. I'll also note in 2023. In this scenario, the same applies. We leave a considerable number in our balance for target funds, in this case over $9 million. And again, we just simply, as of right now, we don't have any projects in our region that are ready to go. We do plan on keeping open to anything that may pop up in time to place in 2023, but it may be hard to fill. So likely those funds would revert back to the state coffer. Just like in scenario 1, 2024, 25, and 26 are all zeroed out. In 2027, there's relatively little balance left over, under $60,000. Again, some of these project costs could potentially increase in the next few weeks, and that would leave us with decisions to make. And likely in this scenario, not bringing any new appendix projects up into a federal fiscal year. So again, the main reason we have these two different scenarios is more or less the Westminster project readiness. As I mentioned, since last month, we feel more comfortable in conversations with DOT and the town and its consultant listing Westminster in 2023. And of course, that allows us to fund additional projects currently listed on the appendix in a fiscal year. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those, or if there are any questions for anyone from DOT or anyone else. Otherwise, I'd like to get a recommendation from the group to the MPO on which of these scenarios to develop into the draft tip.
Brad, Dick Kilhart here. I just would like to speak, and I'm not saying this simply because an Athol project could potentially move up that list, but I think it makes good sense that with the potential of moving 3 projects further along versus maybe 1 project further along, that scenario 1 really does make the most sense, I would suggest, for the group. That's just my 2 cents.
Any other comments from anyone regarding scenario 1 or scenario 2? So would the group recommend that we move forward, or recommend to the MPO that scenario 1 be further developed for the draft tip document?
Yeah, I'm happy to entertain a motion if they want an official vote, Brad. Entertain a motion to move forward with scenario 1 and follow those developments as they may unfold, like Brian said, with some of the pricing concerns, because we never know really what's going to happen here in the next 3 to 6 weeks, depending upon what happens overseas. Who knows?
Right.
Is there a motion out there to move scenario 1 forward for the MJTC/MPO? Suggestion, recommendation?
Tim Kilhart from Harvard. I'll recommend moving scenario number 1 forward.
Veronica.
God, in a second.
Veronica, second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Anyone,
And I can't,
anyone not in favor?
I can't, yeah, I was going to say, is anyone non in favor of it? Is it unanimous?
Yeah, it appears to be.
Okay, seeing that it appears to be, we'll move forward with scenario 1. And are there any other items with regards to that information, Brian, that you need to
That's
bring
all
to
I
the
have.
group?
Yeah, that's all I have. All I can say is I will continue to monitor any of the status updates as they come forth. But we'll begin to develop this scenario likely into the draft.
Yeah,
Okay.
Brian stated before, the next step will be to put together a full draft document, which we'll hopefully have to talk to at the next meeting.
Excellent. Okay. Moving on to item number 6, the UPWP update and local tasks requests. Sherry, I'm assuming? I can't
Yes.
see if she's there or,
Yeah, no,
okay.
that's fine. You got it. So in the
Thank you.
February MJTC meeting, we had gone over the projects that have been requested to date for the UPWP. Just to go over those briefly, we had Leominster, the intersection of Jungle Road and Route 117. We had Townsend, intersection of Route 119 and 13. Shirley and Lunenburg both separately submitted freight and truck study requests, which are basically going to entail a larger study for both communities. Lunenburg requested 2 intersection studies, one at Chase Road and Northfield Road, as well as Route 13 and West Street. And since that list came out, we have received a phone call, at least from the town of Air, trying to get in on the truck and freight study that is potentially going for Shirley and Lunenburg. So that's just something that we are now considering. We haven't gotten enough details on what the community is looking for as of yet, but we hope to get more information over the next couple of days from them. So based off of the equity analysis that I had presented last month for the social equity, where we talked about the communities that fell under the federal highway Title VI as well as FTA Title VI and environmental justice. The communities that hit all 3 of those categories would be the town of Air and Shirley as in Leominster. So those 3 communities were ranking highest for the social equity, and then for the geographic equity, which is solely based on how many tasks we've conducted for each community over the last 5 years. Air, Shirley, and Lunenburg. Air, Shirley, Lunenburg, and Townsend all only had 1 project done for them in the last 5 years, where Leominster had 6. So Leominster ranks a little lower on that particular category. So when we kind of averaged all of those together, it does seem that the Shirley project would be a higher priority based on the equity analysis. And then if Air were to join the Shirley Lunenburg project, they are also ranked fairly high for the equity analysis as well. Leominster, Lunenburg, and Townsend. Townsend came in towards the end for social equity, but a little bit higher based on geography. So what we are proposing is that we would like to prioritize the project as the Shirley, Lunenburg, maybe Air freight study as our top priority for UPWP projects for next year. And then we would like to propose the Leominster project at Jungle Road and Route 117. And then Townsend, Route 119 and 13. And then Lunenburg had 2 intersections, so we were going to, based off of their request, it sounded like the Chase Road, Northfield Road intersection was a higher priority for them. So we were going to propose to move that project also. So there are 5 total projects if we were to merge the Shirley and Lunenburg freight project together into one. So right now we are looking to get some feedback from the JTC on the proposed projects that we have for the next year UPWP based off of the community requests. And there's also, based off of the UPWP guidance from the state, they had mentioned that a regional housing coordination plan would qualify as a transportation-like project. So we are also highly considering putting together a task for that, which would partner with our community development department. So we could partner on that type of a plan to put in the UPWP. So if there's any feedback that you have on those proposed projects or in the ranking order, we will welcome those at this time. If not, regardless, we will have to put together some final, like drafted project write-ups for the MPO meeting next week. Does anybody have any thoughts on what we're proposing right now?
Yes, Mark Archambault from AIR here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you, Mark.
Just wanted to clarify when you'd like to hear back from us regarding the Air Shirley truck study.
Okay, I had,
to these meetings, but I'm filling in for somebody, so.
yeah, I heard from Alan. Alan had contacted me earlier this week, and I know I had returned his phone call, but I have not heard back from him. Granted, I believe it was yesterday morning that I had called him, so I was going to give him another day or two and then follow back up if I had not heard back. But that's pretty much where I'm at. I know it was pretty much in Alan's, probably in his inbox right now. Does that help? Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or thoughts? Okay, so I will take the silence as a sounds good, and we'll move forward with putting together.
Yeah, Sherry, I was just going to ask, do you put those recommendations together, or do you need to signify a vote that we're making those as recommendations from the MJTC?
I don't think we need a vote. I was just looking for feedback at this time. If everyone seems to be in agreement with the way that I had presented, then we can move forward, and then I can present the draft task write-ups to the MPO next week, and we can get further comments at that time.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. If there are no other comments and concerns, we'll move forward to item number 7 under contract status reports. Brad, I'm assuming you'll inform the group on those.
On the federal transit and MART, basically we're continuing with our efforts in coordination with the Transit Authority regarding the planning projects we're working on. The major item we're working on with the Transit Authority is a review of ADA accessibility in the Gardner bus route system. It's similar to what we did last year at Fitchburg and Leominster. So we're in the process of evaluating the Gardner fixed routes, and we'll be putting together some data on those identified bus stops regarding ADA access and eligibility requirements. So that's the major item I have on the federal transit and RTA. George, I don't know if you have anything further for RTA.
Oh, yes. Hi. Matt has submitted a grant application for the Shared Streets and the Spaces grant program for this fiscal year 22 to purchase and install 12 bus shelters. We like to install them throughout the Montachusett region, specifically in the communities of Atoll, Fitchburg, and Gardner, to improve the operation and to protect the transit riders from the inclement weather. Hopefully, they can approve that grant, and will start working on purchasing and installing these bus shelters. The other thing I have is MART will be changing the fare box system on its buses to be more reliable and easy to use and easy to purchase tickets and passes. Also will be installing about 10 to 12 automatic machines in several locations in the region to allow the transit riders to purchase tickets and passes automatically without, it is like an ATM machine. We'll be having several public meetings and a presentation to inform the public on these changes. I don't have a date for the public meeting right now, but next week or so we'll publicize these dates. This is what I have for Mark. If any question, I can entertain. Thank you.
Just to follow up on what George was saying, at the MPO next week, there'll be a presentation on the new fare system. And hopefully we'll repeat that at that presentation at a future MJTC meeting also. So if no questions for George, I'll move on to the MassDOT 3C section of the updates. Just a few items. As I mentioned, the MPO will meet next week on the 16th at 1 p.m. The major action items will be continued discussion on the TIP and UPWP, but there will be a possible TIP amendment number 3 discussion for fiscal year 2022 as a result of some cost changes to a Safe Routes to School project on Viscaloid Avenue in Leominster. I don't have all the numbers right now for you, but basically the project cost and scope has changed, and they're resulted in a change in the cost. So we'll be discussing that. However, there'll be no impact to our fiscal constraint, as this is not a target project in our current TIP. It's under the section known as State Product Prioritized Modernization Projects. So we'll be seeking MPO approval to release for a public review and comment period. As I mentioned, they'll continue the TIP and UPWP discussion. They'll be selecting a funding scenario, taking into account the recommendations from the MJTC for the development of a draft document. There'll also be a presentation at this meeting on the bipartisan infrastructure law, or BIL, the recently passed transportation authorization legislation. So we'll look to repeat that presentation too at an upcoming MJTC, so we can bring you up to date on that legislation and the funding and the programs involved in that. Secondly, MRPC staff will begin the process of seeking interns for the upcoming basically count season. The majority of the work for the interns will be in data collection, but we do hope to have them do some other planning work for us. We'll be posting this to our website in the very near future. So we'll be looking for some one or two, probably 2 or 3 maybe max individuals who can work in the summer, have their own vehicle because of travel needs, and approximately 25 to 30 hours per week. And I believe our starting rate will be $14.25, which is the state minimum wage. Finally, there's a handout from the consulting firm of Weston and Sampson that they sent to us related to a survey on flood reduction for Falula and Baker Brook. The city of Fitchburg is seeking input on priorities for reducing flooding on John Fitch Highway and the rest of the Falula Baker Brook watershed. They sent this notice to us and asked us to pass it along to get the word out to all who might be interested to taking the survey. The deadline on the survey is March 14th. And as an incentive, there's a chance to win a gift card by taking the survey and filling it out. So you'll see the information on the flyer that we have available to find the survey and take it. And then one just item, additional item that was mentioned, we're discussing here previously. Sterling has talked to us about the Route 140, Route 62 intersection. We received a copy of a notification that was sent to the town. The project was recently approved by the Project Review Committee of Mass DOT. Sterling intersection improvements at Route 140 and Route 62. So it's now got an assigned project number, 612612. And the project will be incorporated into our TIP this go around in the appendix because it's just been recently approved in the preliminary. But as this project moves forward through design and so forth, it'll start rolling into our TIP and hopefully one of the federal fiscal years. The award or the notice letter that went back to the town included an estimated cost of $3,117,500 for this project. So now basically the ball is in the court of Sterling for their use and to move forward with hiring a design consultant to get this project underway. And that is all I have under the 3C. If there are any questions.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Brad. I guess we'll move forward to item number 8, which is just setting the next meeting for the MJTC, and that would
Be April 13th.
April 13th.
Yep.
And if we don't have any other discussion or comments, and I would be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. I thank you all for allowing me again to get finished up before 3:30. That maximizes my time here just a bit. So thank you, and we'll see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.